I worked long hours as a construction worker, and though the job was tough on my body, it paid well enough to keep food on the table. My wife, Rachel, worked at a pet grooming shop, a job she loved, even if it didn't pay much. Between the two of us, we made it work. Our home wasn't big, but it was filled with love. We had a 10-year-old son, Alex, from Rachel's first marriage. I'd raised him as my own ever since we got together, and he never made me feel like I was anything less than his father. Then a year ago, our family had grown when we welcomed Mia, our little girl. She was a miracle. After years of trying and doctors telling us we couldn't have a child together, there she was. It felt like our family was finally complete. Despite the late nights and sore muscles from work, I was happy. Rachel seemed happy too. At least I thought she was. Sure, we were always busy, me with the construction gigs and her balancing the pet grooming shifts, but we made time for each other when we could. There was nothing that hinted at anything wrong. Until one evening, when Alex came to me with a look I'd never seen before, part shame, part fear. I was sitting in the living room, exhausted after a long day, ready to zone out in front of the TV. He stood there, shifting from foot to foot, eyes cast down. "Dad, can I talk to you?" he muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. I looked over at him, sensing something was off. "Sure, buddy. What's up?" He hesitated. I saw something. "Saw what?" I asked, half expecting him to admit to breaking something or staying up late playing video games. He looked even more uncomfortable. On the iPad. It was a video of Mom. A laugh escaped me before I could stop it. "Of Mom? Come on, Alex. What are you talking about?" "No, Dad," he said, his voice trembling. "It wasn't a regular video. It was a bad one, on a bad website." My smile disappeared in an instant. My heart skipped a beat. "What kind of website?" Alex swallowed hard and handed me the iPad. His hands were shaking. I took it from him, feeling a pit form in my stomach. I tapped on the screen and pulled up the video he'd been talking about, praying it was a mistake, some kind of misunderstanding. But it wasn't. There on the screen was my wife, Rachel, and she wasn't alone. She was with another man, his hands all over her, the two of them caught in the middle of something that made my stomach churn. My head spun, and for a moment, I felt like I might be sick. I wanted to drop the iPad and forget I'd ever seen it, but my eyes stayed glued to the screen. "Dad!" Alex's small voice broke through my haze. He was looking at me, waiting for an answer. I forced myself to breathe. I couldn't let him see how rattled I was. Not yet. I had to hold it together. For him. I cleared my throat, trying to sound calm. "It's not real, buddy. Someone must have used your mom's face. You know how people can edit videos to look like someone else. Don't worry about it. I'll report it to the police, and we'll get it taken down." Alex stared at me, trying to process what I was saying. "So, it's not real?" I forced a smile, patting his back. "Of course not. Don't worry, okay? But no more iPad for the week. You shouldn't be on sites like that anyway." He looked down ashamed. "Sorry, Dad. I didn't mean to." "I know, buddy. Just no more, all right?" He nodded, his eyes still full of doubt, but wanting to believe me. He walked back to his room, leaving me alone with the iPad still open in my hand. The second he was out of sight, I shut the screen off and let out a shaky breath. My hands were trembling. My mind was racing. It wasn't just her face. It was her. The little details confirmed it, the way she moved, the way she laughed. And then I remembered the tattoo, the one on her lower back, the tiny letter M that stood for my name, Matt. It was Rachel. There was no denying it. And just like that, everything I thought I knew came crashing down. I sat in the quiet living room. My mind was spinning, replaying the video in my head, each image making me sicker than the last. How could she do this? Rachel and I had our struggles, but we were happy, weren't we? But then again, lately there had been things, little things that I hadn't really paid attention to at the time. Like the girls' trip she took to Las Vegas a few months ago. Rachel had always been careful with money. We didn't have a lot, and she was good at saving. But out of the blue, she announced she was going on this trip with her friends. I'd been surprised, maybe even a little suspicious, but she had reassured me that she'd been saving for it for a long time, and she deserved a break. I didn't argue. She worked hard. She did deserve a break. Now, though, everything was starting to add up in ways I didn't like. The trip, The new clothes she'd been wearing, designer brands that I knew we couldn't afford. She'd brushed it off when I asked about it, saying they were gifts or on sale. I believed her. But now? Now I wasn't so sure. There was only one way to find out. Rachel had her own bank account. It was supposed to be for her personal expenses. I never questioned it. I trusted her. She thought I didn't know the password. She was wrong. I sat down at the computer, my fingers trembling as I typed in her login information. Part of me hoped I wouldn't find anything, that maybe I was just being paranoid. The screen loaded, and there it was. Her account balance. I blinked, staring at the number. It was 10 times what it had been a year ago. 10 times. There were transactions coming in regularly, large sums of money that didn't make any sense. No way was she making this kind of money from her job at the pet grooming shop. My stomach twisted as the realization hit me. I clicked through the transactions, each one making my heart sink deeper into my chest. My mind raced as I tried to make sense of it. Had she been doing this the whole time? How long had she been sneaking around, making these videos, getting paid for them? And why hadn't I noticed sooner? She wasn't just cheating. She was profiting off it. And I had been completely oblivious. My heart raced as I stared at my phone. I needed answers, and I needed them now. I dialed her number, hoping she'd pick up, hoping she had a reasonable explanation for all of this. The phone rang. Once. Twice. My knuckles turned white as I gripped the phone. What was she doing? And then someone answered. But it wasn't Rachel. Yeah, a man's voice came through, casual, like he was expecting the call. I froze, the world spinning. Who the hell was this? Why was a man answering my wife's phone? Who are you? I snapped, my voice coming out harsher than I expected. Rachel can't talk right now, he replied, his tone low and lazy, like he wasn't even trying to hide anything. She's busy. Busy with what? My stomach turned, ball rising in my throat. I knew. Deep down I knew. The man chuckled, a smug, infuriating sound. Look, dude, she'll call you later, all right? We're in the middle of something. I heard laughter in the background, a woman's laughter. Rachel's laughter. My heart pounded in my chest like a sledgehammer. Before I could say another word, the line went dead. I stared at the phone, my mind struggling to process what had just happened. She was with him. Right now. With him. I slammed the phone down on the counter, my hands shaking with fury. Just then, Mia's cry broke through the silence, pulling me out of the rage consuming me. I rushed to her room, trying to push my anger down, but it kept clawing its way back to the surface. I picked her up from her crib, her little body shaking with sobs. As I held her, rocking her back and forth, trying to calm her down, the thought hit me like a truck. Mia's hair. Light, almost blonde. Not like mine, not like Rachel's either. She'd always said it came from her side of the family, and I believed her. Why wouldn't I? She was my wife, the mother of my children. But now everything was in question. I held Mia close, staring at her tiny face, her soft hair brushing against my cheek. A chill ran down my spine. What if? What if she wasn't mine? The thought was so terrifying, so absurd, but I couldn't shake it. I had to know. I had to be sure. I laid Mia down gently, brushing a tear from her cheek as she drifted back to sleep. My hands were shaking as I reached down and pulled a single strand of her hair from her head. 2 days. That's how long it would take for the results to come in. 2 days of torturous waiting. And they came 2 days before Rachel got back from her girls' trip. The envelope sat on the kitchen table, the words genetic testing printed across the top in bold letters. My heart pounded in my chest as I ripped it open, my hands trembling. I scanned the page, my eyes locking onto the words that would change everything, not biologically related. The world seemed to collapse around me. My breath caught in my throat as I sank into the chair. Fury surged through me, hotter than I'd ever felt before. I couldn't hold it in anymore. Without thinking twice, I started writing an email. I listed everything, every lie, every suspicion, the videos, the cheating, the baby that wasn't mine. I added her parents, her siblings, her closest friends, even our mutual acquaintances. Everyone needed to know who she really was. My finger hovered over the send button for a split second, but anger won. I hit it. 10 minutes. That's all it took for my phone to ring. It was Rachel. Matt, what the hell did you do? Her voice was frantic. her words spilling out fast and sharp. Why would you send that email? Are you out of your mind? I almost laughed at the irony of her asking me if I was out of my mind. Me? Are you out of your mind? What the hell are you doing with that guy? What about the videos, huh? The lies? The trips to Vegas? Do you think I wouldn't find out? Her breathing was heavy on the other end. I could feel the tension, the panic in her silence. Come home, I said, trying to steady my voice. We're going to talk. Now. She hesitated. Matt, I'm not sure. Come home, Rachel. We're doing this face to face. The line went dead. Early the next morning, I heard the door creak open. She stepped inside, looking pale, exhausted, her hair still disheveled from the trip. There were no smiles, no greetings, just the suffocating weight of everything unsaid between us. Talk, I said, crossing my arms, trying to keep the anger simmering below the surface. She swallowed hard, avoiding my gaze, then finally sat down on the couch, her eyes brimming with guilt. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I didn't say anything. I just waited. It started out as something stupid, she continued, her voice shaking. I was bored. That's all it was. Bored, stressed, tired of everything. I went out with some girlfriends to blow off steam. We ended up at this bar, and, well, they dared me to kiss a stranger. Just a kiss, that's all. I clenched my fists, feeling the rage boiling up again. And one kiss led to more. We started meeting up, sneaking around motels, parking lots. Hell, even at our house when you were at work. She winced as she said that, but I couldn't bring myself to respond. I wanted to scream, to throw something, but I just stood there, stone-faced, listening to her continue. Then, he filmed us, she admitted, barely able to meet my eyes. I didn't know at first, but when I found out, I freaked out. I told him to delete it, that I never wanted anyone to see that. But then he showed me how much money that one video was making. She paused, her hands wringing together, as if the memory made her sick. I didn't want him, Matt. I swear I didn't, but we're always struggling. You're working yourself to the bone, and I thought this could help. One more video, then another, then more money. I was going to surprise you, buy our son the piano he's been dreaming of. I was doing it for us, for the family. Her words hung in the air like a heavy, suffocating fog. I stared at her, trying to comprehend everything she'd just said. For the family? I repeated, my voice barely above a whisper. You think this filth was for our family. She broke down then, sobbing into her hands. I didn't know how to stop. It just kept going. And I knew you'd find out eventually, so I tried to save everything, to make it right before it all fell apart. I felt like I was watching a stranger. This woman in front of me, the mother of my children, wasn't the Rachel I knew. She was someone else, someone who had betrayed me, our marriage, and everything we stood for. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm inside. And what about our daughter? What about Mia? You can't tell me that she's part of this mess, too. Rachel's sobs quieted, and she looked up at me, her eyes hollow, defeated. I don't know, she whispered. I don't know who her father is, Matt. It could be any of them. That was it. That was the moment I knew there was no going back. Get out, I said, my voice cold. I want you out of here. Now. She tried to protest, but I cut her off. I'll keep Mia, and I'll take care of everything. You can pay child support, but you're done here. We're done. She packed her things in silence, her sobs the only sound filling the room. And as she walked out the door, a part of me shattered. There was no relief, no satisfaction, just the hollow emptiness of a life torn apart by the woman I thought I could trust.